Hey everybody, Alex here, out of the Park 21 Pittsburgh Pirates franchise, episode number 25. This will be the 2022-2023 MLB offseason. As you guys saw in our live stream, as I hope that you guys saw, the Pirates were eliminated in game number 5 of the NLDS to the LA Dodgers, losing that one 10-2. And Dodgers were a great team, and as I'll show you guys in a moment, they had a very good end to the postseason run, and so that will end their season. But very excited for the offseason, and so let's jump into what's going to happen here over the next month. Before we get into everything Pirates related, here is the MLB playoffs from 2022. Again, we lost in 5 to the Dodgers, who went on to beat the Astros in 6 and become World Series champs. So that makes back-to-back years our Pittsburgh Pirates have lost to the eventual World Series winner. That was Atlanta in 2021. And then the Dodgers this season, the Dodgers went on to sweep the Braves 4-0 in the NLCS and go on to beat the Astros in 6. And just a quick look at the Dodgers schedule and how they went on to win the World Series after sweeping the Braves, including winning Game 4, 4-3 in 16 innings. They went up 2-0 on Houston, including a crazy 11-10 Game 1 victory. The Astros came back in Games 3 and 4 to tie the series at 2, but Houston lost Game 5, 10-6 to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers won the World Series in, Game number 6, winning 7-5, and that is their 7th World Series title in history. Quick look at the box score for those who are interested. That was Kendall and Muncy, who we both saw a lot of in our postseason run and postseason matchup against them. Jock Peterson down the order, but went 2 for 4. And when it comes to the pitching staff, you can see the numbers there. So congrats to the MLB's best record in baseball. Usually does not correlate to a World Series championship, but it does this year for the LA Dodgers. I won't show all of this on camera, but I do just want to show you our coaching vacancies. We do not have any guys leaving the organization in terms of the Pirates staff, bench coach, hitting coach, all that kind of stuff. They're all returning, either contracts extended. Actually, I think no one was extended. They all just were going through at least 2023, so no shakeup with the big league team. In the minors, though, lots of changes, including with Bradenton there and high A ball. All 3 positions need to be filled. Just a quick look at the coaching staff for anyone interested. I may promote some guys. I'll sign some guys, obviously off camera. I won't do that tedious stuff on camera with you guys, but that is a look at our personnel. I almost never do voting myself for the offseason awards because I don't follow the league closely enough in the regular season, and obviously I'm pretty biased running the Pirates, and I just vote for all Pirates players, but I have to vote for Mitch Keller here for Cy Young because I think he does deserve it. Will he actually get it? We'll find out here momentarily, especially if you're watching the video. I'm still a couple days away from the Cy Young Awards winners being announced. It's the 29th of October right now. Cy Young gets announced on November 11th, so hopefully Mitch Keller gets the nod, but I am voting for Mitch Keller because he absolutely deserves to be NL Cy Young Award winner. All right, taking a look at 2022 salary arbitration, and just for the record, I'll be kind of piecing these videos together. I won't do the whole offseason in one swoop. I'll just kind of do a little bit at a time and then edit everything together. So just a heads up if things sound a little jumpy, a little bit, like they've been cut in place, because probably they have not quite right here. This is still on the first day of the offseason, of a segment of the offseason for you guys. But let's take a look at the salary arbitration eligible players. And we already know a couple decisions that will be made. I am not going to offer arbitration to our catcher, Jacob Stallings, although he's a great leader and fans and teammates love him. He just had a really poor year. He had 200, OPS plus of 46, a negative WAR. You've seen his decline. It's been very clear after a really strong 2020 season, but we have Trace Barrera. We have Jonah Heim, who got a little cup of coffee at the end of the 2022 regular season, and then also played in the playoffs. He'll be the backup catcher. So we have our catchers 1 and 2 set, and Stallings, he's 32. He's going to be 33 soon, and he's certainly not worth the $3.2 million that he may be getting in arbitration. So we will withdraw the offer from Jacob Stallings. May end up releasing him, but I think we have enough cap space right now that we don't have to release him right this second. Everybody else here that's arbitration eligible will be getting an offer in some form or fashion. There'll be some that I'll try to negotiate with without having to go to arbitration. It's always ideal to avoid arbitration in this game. It does help player morale that is coded into the game, but I'm not sure if we'll get that with all these guys. For example, Blake Wayman, who is still recovering from torn rotator cuff. We will bring him back just because we have the financial flexibility to do so. But he's not going to get much. He wants, I think, over $1 million in terms of me negotiating with him. So I'll just offer the $750K in terms of what the arbitration estimate is, and that should be one in our favor because he barely pitched this year and is hurt, and there's really no compelling reason to side with the player in this one, but we will try to bring him back just to see how he recovers. Actually, I don't think he'll be even ready for the start of spring training. He might be. It's kind of close, still out 6 months, so we will bring him back, but very, very cheaply. And before I get into the rest of the salary arbitration, guys, let's take a quick look at our financial situation. We actually have a good amount of money for free agents this year, and that is still factoring in the Jacob Stallings contract and some other guys on the books that we may end up be moving here. So we should have, actually, by my estimates, around $16 to $17 million for free agency this year. The only problem is there aren't a lot of great free agents, so we'll look at those guys a little bit later in the video. So we're actually sitting okay cap-wise. I believe if we go to our budget from our owner, Robert Nutting, let me find that here. He is setting our player payroll around $85 million, and this past year we were working well below that, as you may imagine, considering we're the Pirates. We were at 70.3. Right now we're estimated 68.3, but again, that has some guys like Jacob Stallings on the books who will not be offering arbitration to, so that will give us some more financial flexibility. For some players like Steven Brault, who's been a really reliable lefty out of the pen, even though he is getting into his 30s, we'll just go ahead and meet this demand right here. The estimate's 2.2. He wants 2.4. I think that's reasonable. And again, because we're not so pinching pennies this year the way we have in seasons past, I feel just like I don't have to fight these guys as much. So we're just going to go ahead here, check the details of the contract. Looks pretty standard, and go ahead and meet the demand to try to avoid arbitration with someone like Steven Brault. Although there are some players like Cole Tucker who we will not be able to do a deal with prior to arbitration and really will be forced to go to arbitration. He wants an 8-year deal worth $81 million. I like Cole Tucker, though his defense at short is suspect. It's average to just below is probably where you would put that at, but for shortstop, you really put a premium on defense. Again, I like Cole Tucker, but he wants too much money. I've locked up some other young guys to long-term deals already, whether that's Mitch Keller, Brian Reynolds, Joe Musgrove got a deal a couple years ago, Brian Hayes. So Cole, we just can't afford that, or not willing to pay that right now, and so we will have to offer something at arbitration, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe $3 million. I haven't decided on the number just quite yet, but we will not be doing a actual deal with Cole Tucker. And as you guys can tell, we have some already offers sent out to Brault and Crick and Garrett and Everon, just kind of locking up the bullpen, the guys who are pretty cheap right now. Still have to deal with Wayman, and Nick Birdie wants a decent amount of money, and obviously he was a great reliever for us this year, although there's injuries, he's fragile, there's some fatigue issues that I'm worried about. So, I was leaning more towards trading him. I'm kind of backed off of that a little bit. Still not quite sure where I'm going to go, but I'll have to figure that out, and we'll probably meet you guys with the result of this one whenever we go through actual salary arbitration and just kind of see where, if I offer a contract at all, or if I just go to arbitration with Nick Birdie. Quickly, we'll take a look at our minor league free agents. Again, I'll handle this stuff off camera, but here are the guys who are eligible. We'll try to bring back some of these guys. A lot of them are angry because they're playing in the minors. They want to be in the majors, so they won't accept any sort of minor league extension or even a major league extension if I were to offer that, though. Don't really see that happening for most of these guys. I'd like to get a Robbie Grossman back for one more year, a Phillip Evans, perhaps Steve Barron's a good catcher, but some of those guys will leave, some of them will stay. We have a couple offers out to low-level guys right now, but I just wanted to mention that. Won't do that stuff on camera. And then there are our free agents, and there are 6 of them, 3 who are eligible for compensation. I guess is how that would be worded, with Adam Frazier, Chad Cole, and Trevor Williams. None will be given an offer to. I'll go through each player quickly here. Trevor Williams, I think he just had a bit of an unlucky season, but he wants $13.5 million, 2-year deal. I may be able to re-sign him for cheaper on the open market. I know the fan interest will take a hit because he's a fan favorite. His BABIP was pretty high this year at 335. Last year was 258. The year before 289. So again, I think there was a bit of bad luck there with Trevor Williams, but we are seeing regression. His stuff is down. See on the scouting report here, it's going down slightly. So I don't want to pay him the money that he's asking for right now. It's just too much. Chad Cole, just no chance of us doing a deal with Chad Cole, who was hurt. He somehow got hurt after the season was over. I guess he's healthy now, but he had sprained his elbow randomly on October 10th. I don't know how he did that, but yeah, Chad Cole was his big disappointment for us this year. Ended up finishing the year in the minor leagues at an ERA of over 5 and 64 innings, 41 appearances, all in relief. So he had a couple decent years earlier in our franchise, but we're going to move on from Chad Cole. And then there's Adam Frazier. who I had a good year. He's great against righties. He's struggling pretty good against lefties. He's got really pronounced splits. He hit like 305 against righties, 232 versus lefties. Again, just wants too much money. I thought about trying to trade him at the deadline. No one wanted that contract, which was fine. I was okay with hanging on to him. Maybe someone we could try to reach out to once free agency begins. He's not going to get $12 million per year on the open market like this, so his asking price will probably go down immediately, but just can't justify that right now. We have Jimmy Kloenke, our first ever draft pick. We traded for Nick Decker last year in the Josh Bell deal. I have some other potential trades that I may try to work to get another corner outfielder. His defense is pretty poor. The bat's good, the average is good, but he's not an overwhelming bat, so Adam Frazier may come back, but probably not, and definitely not getting a long-term deal right now. And then quickly a look at our pending free agents without compensation. A lot of failed trades here, unfortunately. With CJ Cron, the first baseman, who didn't even really make our playoff roster. I think he was there for maybe the wild card game, but traded over from San Francisco, tried to give us the power bat at first base. Didn't work out. Did hit 3 home runs in 12 starts, but hit a .147 OPS plus 40. Didn't really give up much of anything for him. Let's check on the guy we traded for CJ Cron. Fleury Nova, who has slight upside, corner outfielder. We got enough of those guys, and Aaron Shackelford that just looks like depth. It's 26 years old, so didn't give up much for him, but that trade did not work out for us. Same with Jimmy Nelson, who 3 innings into his first start with the Pirates tore his labrum. He's out 6 to 7 months. He's 33 years old. Maybe he could come back on a minor league type deal, but he's not going to be healthy for quite some time. So that did not work out. That was the last second deal I did with Texas. We traded. Just look at the names here. A reliever with a tiny bit of upside, shortstop that's kind of similar, and Travis McGregor, who's a really low-level reliever. So again, I gave up a little bit of something for him, but not a lot. Nothing I'm going to probably worry about too much, but obviously a trade because of injury that just did not work out. Then there's Justin Wilson, our most successful trade piece that we acquired, but even then it was not great. ERA of over 5, ERA plus of 82. His BABIP was way up there at over 400. He was the guy that did not do well versus righties, did not do as well as I would have hoped to against lefties, but was okay, and I think had some valuable some valuable appearances in the playoffs. So I'm not totally mad at that trade. We gave up, Derek Holland, who retired pretty quickly out in Arizona, and Travis Swaggerty, our former failed first-round pick, who was up in the majors briefly with Arizona, hit .095, and then finished the rest of the year in the minors. All right, we are back, and before I get into the awards, which just finished up for the 2022 season, we do have some announcements for arbitration guys, or guys at least we've avoided arbitration with, and there are several, fortunately for us. Pretty easy deals, though, with Amir Garrett, who's going to make 1.4, Kyle Crick at 2.8. Let's see here, Stephen Brault signing for 2.4. Let's see, I think there was somebody else. Yep, there we go. Doivadas Neverauskas signing for just 1.1, which is super cheap considering how effective he's been. I'm surprised how well he simmed, but I'm sure not mad about it. And we also avoided, and I promised I would keep you updated on this, Nick Birdie avoided arbitration at $9.2 million, which was much higher than the 8.5 arbitration estimate. But I figured if I went 8.5, he's making 7.2 this year, had a really good season, might come in higher, might side with a player. And so, again, with a lot more money to kind of play with this year compared to past years, I was willing to go a little bit higher. And so Nick Birdie will return at $9.2 million for the 2023 season. All right, quick look at some of the awards here. I'll just scroll through it quickly. Feel free to pause if you would like to see exactly who all won for the AL and NL for the Gold Glove winners. No Pirates for the NL, unfortunately. I thought maybe in center field, but Harrison Bader is just awesome in center field and probably is going to win a Gold Glove almost every single year. How many does he have so far? Looks like he's at 2 already, and that's going to be, I think, the first of many for Harrison Bader. For reliever of the year in the AL, it goes to James Karenczyk. I think they call him Wild Thing in real life right now, maybe in the game as well. No nickname yet for him, but he's got some of the craziest numbers I've seen, and despite having only 30 control, that walk rate it's not good, obviously, but it's not terrible for 30 control, and 17.5 Ks per 9, 110 stuff. I mean, that is just like insane, and you see the numbers. OSA head scout pretty much agree here, so he's the AL reliever of the year. Check out the rest of the results here. Taylor Rogers, second place. Jose Alvarado for the Rays, so a couple Rays showing up on this list. And for the NL, unfortunately, no Nick Birdie. Nick Birdie gets no love. He's never won an award, even though he's had some really fantastic seasons. No, he didn't pitch a whole lot this year because he was limited by injury. But the winner here for the NL was Brett Martin, who was traded in June and only pitched 43 innings, 36 appearances. Had a great season, but that would mean that Nick Birdie could get some consideration. But either way, Brett Martin had a fantastic season. What a trade for the Phillies. ERA of just over 1.2. And for the rest of the vote getters, Kenley Jansen, the Dodgers, in second place. Here are the Silver Slugger winners for the AL, including Mike Trout, Austin Meadows, Alex Bregman. And for the NL, again, no Pirates, which was not a surprise because our offense was pretty mediocre. Nobody that really had a compelling case to be in contention for a Silver Slugger award. But you see Yelich and Acuna and Gavin Lux and Bryce Harper, some pretty familiar names on that list. For the AL's top rookie, it goes to the Indians' Nolan Jones, who hit 29 home runs, hit 247 this year for Cleveland, so a nice season for him. And for the NL, a pretty familiar face for us when it comes to the playoffs, it is Jaron Kendall, the center fielder for the Dodgers, although he strikes out at an insane clip, 226 times and 600 at-bats this year. He did hit 31 home runs, stole 36 bases, but got caught 27 times, a WAR of 3.4, and had some really big at-bats against us in the playoffs. So while he played against us 2 years ago, he was officially a rookie in 2022 and becomes, just beating out the Cardinals, Dylan Carlson, the NL Rookie of the Year. And by the way, there is Luis Diaz, the guy I talked about last offseason, and he ended up turning the season around a little bit. That on-base percentage is still pretty low at just over 300, but he did hit almost 30 home runs this year, so kind of worked out for the Giants. For the best managers of the year for the AL, it goes to Miguel Luna of the Astros, who lost in the World Series to the Dodgers, and no surprise that Dave Roberts of the Dodgers becomes NL Manager of the Year. All right, for AL Cy Young, it goes to Blake Snell, unanimous winner for the American League, beating out teammate Tyler Glasnow. And Snell, great year, led the AL with a 2.68 ERA, a WAR of 6.1. Also led the AL in strikeouts and had the lowest home runs per 9 in the American League. So see the rest of the list here for the AL. And for the NL, the Pirates on the board with Mitch Keller winning NL Cy Young of the year, unanimous decision as well. Marquez a distant second place, so kudos to Mitch Keller, well deserved to see that little achievement up there for the award winner that he'll always hang on to, leading the NL in so many categories: ERA, Ks, I think he tied in starts, and a 7.1 WAR. What a year for Mitch Keller. Really, what a second half of the season for Mitch Keller. The first half was just, it was okay. It was nothing special. But in March it was good, but April it was not great. Over 4. May was okay, but then the last half of the year, July, August, September, 208, 157, 136, great in the playoffs. Man, Mitch Keller, what a performance for him. He's locked up long term as well, so happy to get him. I think when did I sign him to an extension? I'm not even sure when it was. It was prior to the 2022 season, so before this breakout campaign for Mitch Keller, which is good timing because he would have been a lot more expensive, but very happy to have Mitch Keller. He's a captain. He's a leader. He's only 26 years old. Man, this guy is going to be a stud for years to come. And finally, the AL MVP goes to Mike Trout, beating out Vlad Jr. They split first place votes. Trout did not have a great average, but 60 home runs, 121 walks, 19 doubles, a WAR of almost 10. Ridiculous stuff for him. So Mike Trout, still at 31 years old, arguably, it's the top player in baseball, or right up there, top players in baseball. See the rest of the award getters, a whole lot of them, but no one could touch Mike Trout in the AL. And in the NL, it goes to Gavin Lux, who I kind of figured was going to be the MVP. Talked about that during our playoff series. You could argue for Ronald Acuna Jr. I think the issue there with Acuna is he only had 89 RBIs. I assume he did a lot of stuff out of the leadoff spot, as opposed to Gavin Lux, who had 114 RBIs, and he had a couple more home runs as well. But Gavin Lux, that's probably not going to be his last MVP award, because he is, I think, maybe the best player in baseball. All right, we are back on November 21st after salary arbitration hearings. Only 2 players went to arbitration for the Pirates. That was Cole Tucker, and the arbitrator ruled in favor of the team, so he'll make $3 million. And Blake Wayman, the reliever, still recovering from injury, arbitrator also agreed with us, and he'll make $750,000 this year. Jacob Stallings was non-tendered, and we have not re-signed any of our free agents, whether that's Frazier, Cole, Williams, Crone, Nelson, and Justin Wilson all have hit free agency. And speaking of free agency, here are the top free agents as we are on day 1 of 2022 free agency. The best player out there is Mookie Betts, who opted out of his contract with Arizona. He's looking for obviously a ton of money, but one of the better players in baseball, though he is 30 years old and clearly out of our price range. And as the offseason center shows, some of the other top names, Chris Sale, Noah Syndergaard, and some great pitchers. Out on the market is also Jacob deGrom. He's rumored to maybe be in talks with Boston right now. Some batters with Miguel Sano and Xander Bogaerts. As you guys can see down in the bottom left corner, we actually have a lot of money for the first time in our series at $17.3 million this year, so this is definitely a refreshing change of pace for the Pirates. So who could we go after now that we do have some financial flexibility? There's 2 starting pitchers that I'm looking at. This is one of the international free agents, and I don't even know how to say his last name. Hisayo is how we'll go with it right now. I'm just going to call him KSH for the moment, and if we sign him, then maybe I'll learn his name. He's one of those guys from Taiwan that you just know nothing about. There's no history on him. I've had mixed success with these guys in previous editions of the game. I've not signed somebody like this to this kind of money potentially so far in Out of the Park 21. Won $17 million on a... is that 6-year deal, so there's obviously quite a bit of risk here. He's only 27 years old. I'm going to scout him some more, but I mean, that is in theory an 80-80 pitcher who doesn't want $40 million. That could be a steal, but we're just so limited information on that, and it's still, again, financially would basically rob all of our cap space right now, all of our budget. So I don't know about him. I'll have to scout him, see if that contract demand comes down some, but that guy is very interesting. At the very least, I'll be following his career. More likely that I may go after here is Luis Severino, the former Yankee, who didn't have a great ERA with the Yankees last year at over 4, but an ERA plus of 116, a BABIP of 274, so decent numbers there. He actually was better at home than on the road. I thought maybe he had really bad home splits because he played at Yankee Stadium and, you know, it's a hitter's park, but that wasn't the case. So not really sure what to make of him. I want to scout him some more, but he only wants right now a 1-year deal worth $7 million, which is really affordable for a 28-year-old pitcher. It is just 1 year, so if it doesn't work out, I could always move on. He did have a torn UCL at Tommy John back in 2020, so I mean, he hasn't pitched terribly since then, but not great either. But that's a guy that's very interesting. They could slide in as a number 3, number 4 power pitcher. That's what we look for. So not sure on him, but if that contract demand comes down some, may take a run at Severino. Also looking for a little bit of bullpen help here. I think we're looking for a lefty right now. Top guy is Taylor Rogers, who I showed you guys earlier in the video, finished 2nd in the AL for reliever of the year. So one a good lefty. Really didn't have that guy last year. Kind of ran through a lot of him. Brault was pretty good, but Wilson was okay. And saw in the playoffs we were kind of missing another lefty arm. And this is Rogers, who's excellent versus lefties and good enough versus righties, and had an excellent season last year in 2022 for the Rays, who was with Minnesota in the last couple of years. So he's had really good numbers. Fly ball pitcher, but does have good movement. His home runs per 9 is really low, so I'm not as worried about that. The control is excellent as well. So he wants a $8 million, it looks like, $16 million total deal. May wait for that to come down some, but definitely looking for a lefty. If we don't land Rogers, some more economical arms for us include someone like a Zach Britton, for example, who's 34 years old, extreme ground ball. The control's a little bit low, but the movement is still excellent. And with Houston last year, he was okay, but you know, if he comes in really cheap, 1.6, someone that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But Britton's a guy that I'm looking at. Another guy we're looking at is Andrew Chavin. Struggled with the Cubs and Orioles last year. The numbers, again, do not look good, but the splits were much better versus lefties than righties, and we would be looking for a left-handed reliever, so hopefully would mitigate some of the troubles this guy has versus righties. Could make a case for Aroldis Chapman, former Yankee. I think he was with the Yankees last year. He's now finally hit free agency only once. $3 million. Numbers are still excellent, still striking out a ton of guys. Control's getting a little bit weaker, and there's just a concern about his personality and overall clubhouse presence if things kind of go south. And there's also Alex Claudio, who has some of the worst stuff in baseball, but some of the best movement, best control. I mean, he throws, 84, 86. He's just throwing BBs out there, but it still kind of worked for him. Did not have a great year this past season with the Twins, but again, a lefty specialist, perhaps a good work ethic with him, and just some phenomenal ratings in terms of movement control against lefties. Other than that, there's no one else that, in terms of major leaguers, that I'm really interested in bringing in right now. I looked at maybe a Benintendi, but he wants $19.5 million. That's just going to be too much for me, and he's not so good that he deserves that kind of money. And Really, besides him, I mean, there isn't anyone else that I look at so much. Maybe Adam Frazier. His contract demand is expectedly dropped from 12 million to 3.6 now that he's on the open market. But I think we have some trades that we may be working on a little bit later in the offseason. But that's kind of free agency right now. I'll check back with you guys in a little bit to see who we may have signed or what's happening around the major leagues. Alright guys, it is December 15th of the offseason when I kind of touch base on what's happened since the last point I edited in this video. And let's talk about the offseason, where some of the top free agents have signed, and definitely some notable ones out there. Jacob deGrom going to the Houston Astros on a pretty substantial 4-year, $113 million contract. And the Milwaukee Brewers have loaded up. The NL Central will be much tougher, I think, this season, as the Brewers consider them all in with Joey Gallo signed through 2029 at 29 years old. Strikes out a lot, but 46 home runs last year, so that is a big bat in the Brewers lineup. Other guys to sign include Mookie Betts. He's now a Padre, so he'll stay in the NL West as he signed a deal through 2027, 5 years, $135 million, but a player opt out 2 years in, so he's just trying to like bounce around team to team to try to increase his value as his career goes along, and he was spectacular last season for the Diamondbacks. The international, the Taiwan pitcher that I was looking at, he goes to the Dodgers because, of course, he goes to the Dodgers because every good player goes to LA, and he has signed a 4-year, $70 million deal. His demand to come down to $13.5 million, but he ended up signing for $17.6 per year with LA. So just was not going to be able to afford that, especially not knowing a lot of information about him and his scouting report, and obviously has not pitched with any statistical input before. So just a risk I could not take. So he goes to LA where they can afford to take that hit if it does not work out. Aaron Nola to the Mets. Noah Syndergaard will go to the Giants. He's still out with a torn flexor tendon in his elbow at 30 years old, so the Giants are taking a risk there by paying him quite a lot of money through 2028. Elsewhere, the rich get richer with Xander Bogaerts signing with the Braves. Chris Sale goes to the Twins. Kirby Yates, like I said, the Brewers are going all in this year, signing Kirby Yates to a 2-year deal. Oh, there's a vesting option on that year too, so that's actually not a lot of money for a 35-year-old that did very well with the Padres last season. Benintendi, who we did kind of give a quick glance at, he is now a member of the Texas Rangers. 6 years, $95.7 million for him. Again, just going to be too rich for us. And I think those are really the bulk of the major deals right now. But what I want to go to right now are 2 trades that the Pirates have made that are pretty significant. All right, on December 8th, the Pittsburgh Pirates made a pretty mega deal, trading away 5 players for starting pitcher, right-hander J.J. Goss and minor league third baseman Tyler Frank. And so let's go through the deal, kind of speed through because I don't want to dwell on every single guy here. But we traded away Amir Garrett, who was our lefty last year, did well, but I'm seeing a regression with him, especially that BABIP rising, and yeah, his numbers are already starting to come down, so I wanted to move on from Amir Garrett, although the Rays lost a lefty and Taylor Rogers out of the pen, so they kind of can replace him with Amir Garrett, who's on a much cheaper deal. Kloenke, who we drafted way back in 2020, who was our 5th round pick. We have a couple of catchers in the system. We got Barrera and Heim, pretty young guys, so I kind of had a bit of a gluttony of catchers in the system, so I wanted to move on from one of them. They like Karenczyk, who did pretty well in rookie ball last season, hit 295 OPS plus of 126. So I wanted to move on from Karenczyk, who's just 20 years old. Also giving away a couple of outfielders with Matthew Frazier, who was in Double-A last year, kind of to end the season, and did pretty well, but he is fragile and had some injuries, so I was able to move on from him. I think we can kind of make corner outfield guys like him pretty replaceable ultimately. Also traded away Cal Mitchell, another outfielder very similar to Frazier, though he is durable. He was in Double-A again to end last year, but struggled throughout it, so they've got a couple of outfielders to add to their system. And originally, this guy was not supposed to be included in the deal, but they seem to end up wanting him. We will not do the deal without Mason Martin. Did not really want to give this guy up, although I don't love first basemen who have low void Ks. I did like him as a backup first baseman in the system with a decent amount of power, but had to give up Mason Martin, so that's kind of one of the other big pieces. And he's now a Tampa Bay Ray who can probably play first or more likely DH, and he made a quick appearance with us last year, accidentally got played at third base, made 3 errors, and that was a bad mistake by me, but now he is a member of the Rays. All right, so we gave up a lot. So what do we get back in return? We'll start with the more minor piece here with Tyler Frank, who is on our 40-man roster right now, can play some first base, so kind of replace Martin in that sense, so does not have the power that Mason Martin has. And he's kind of a utility guy to an extent, can play second, third, short. He's got a good work ethic, and he's a spark plug for the team. He was in Double-A the past 2 seasons. Last year, he had 251 OPS plus of just 93, 1.8 WAR, but gets on base at a good clip, 371 in 2021. 354 last season, so like the eye discipline, the avoid case. So he's kind of more quad A organizational depth player. We didn't really need an infielder in the worst way, but he's kind of a throw in to the deal. And the big piece here was J.J. Goss. I wanted to get some starting pitching prospects. We just have so few of those guys. Some guys we drafted haven't worked out. Some other trades have not worked out. And I think Goss is one of the best guys that we could get. He's got good stuff, movement control. He's a fly ball pitcher, but the movement's decent. His home runs per 9 are pretty low. He's got a great fastball, slider, changeup combination, a power pitcher, and he was in Double-A last year and did really well. By only 5 starts, so it's a small sample size, but 2.51 ERA, a whip of just over 1, home runs per 9 of just 0.3, and again, in past years, the home runs per 9 have been low. The BABIP was unusually high there for a fly ball pitcher, so I don't think that what he did in high A ball is really indicative of where he can actually end up being. His Ks per 9 are excellent, 11.3, 9.1. I mean, you're seeing these around the 9 to 10 range for him, and he just really seemed to turn it on in Double-A last season, and that power pitcher mentality kind of fits our system and our philosophy. So it's a bit of a gamble starting pitching. You never know exactly what you're going to get with him, but he is established to in a sense where he's not very new to the minor league system. We're able to kind of evaluate, see some of his growth and improvement. I think he can be not a number 1, but like a number 2, number 3 guy in our rotation, and could even be in with the team in spring training. That is possible this year, to kind of get a look at how he may fare with us in a big league setting. So I don't know exactly if he'll be with us to start the year, or he probably will start the year in AAA actually, but there is an outside chance he could begin the year with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So really excited about acquiring J.J. Goss. The other trade we made, and this one was difficult. It was very hard to get this guy, and I really wanted him for quite some time now. We have acquired center fielder Enrique Bradfield from the Washington Nationals. We had to give up several players for him. That included Oneil Cruz, and I'm sure a lot of people will not like to see that the Cruz is gone. There's a lot of potential. I've seen him sim really well in some other out-of-the-park universes, but just don't think it's going to happen for us. I mean, his power is okay, but it's not overwhelming. We have Ernie Ordonias, and with Ordonias kind of spiking and coming on strong last year, he's going to be our everyday first baseman in 2023. Cruz was kind of left without a home, and I just hate guys who strike out at the rate that he does. He got off to a hot start with us last year, but then really tanked, hit a .93 for the season, had a negative WAR, and so I just want to kind of move on from Oneil Cruz, and had to give up a decent player, a decent prospect for the guy that I'll show you here in a moment. In return, since we acquired a center fielder in Bradfield, had to give them a couple guys back. This is Gabby Lawn, I guess is how you say it, 21 years old, decent upside, good in the field. The bat's averaged a little bit below, but he's got some time to grow and develop at just 21 years old. Same with, I think it was actually the only center fielder we gave up. Well, almost gave up a different one, but that was the guy we ended up sending to them. Also gave up, though, pitcher Mario Garcia, who is a starting pitcher with a good repertoire, but not overwhelming stuff. And he's a finesse pitcher, so it doesn't really fit our system. He did not have a great outing in AAA. Last year was actually pretty terrible, both out of the pen and as a starter. So, but just 23, and maybe he'll have more success in Washington. And then also gave up another third baseman because we have Brian Hayes. We know he's going to be locked into third base for the longest time. Could kind of give up a third baseman with some upside here with Mojica. Alexander Mojica, 20 years old, strikes out a lot. Does have a good arm though, so he definitely can play third base. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and move on from him. He did well though in rookie ball last year. Hit 270 with a 126 OPS. So in return, we get Enrique Bradfield, and I am still on my mission of just acquiring all the center fielders in the world. He is a top 100 prospect at number 99, and kind of a Harrison Bader type, with just elite center field defensive ability, has great speed, and I think he'll be different from a guy like Billy Hamilton because he'll put the ball in play more, he'll get on base a little bit more, with just a little bit more pop in his bat, but he's a ground ball hitter, which is what we want for a speed kind of slap hitter kind of guy, but high work ethic, low greed, really happy about that. So he had a strong year in high A ball last year at 308 to finish the year, a WAR of almost 4, so really difficult to try to get this guy from Washington. Had to give up a decent amount, including Oneil Cruz, but want to get that just slam dunk center fielder. He will not be playing for the Pirates to start this year. Probably won't play for them at all this season, but I think by 2024, he'll be your starting center fielder. One last note for you guys, we had the Rule 5 draft. I did not show that on camera. I apologize, but it was pretty uneventful, to be honest. We did not lose anybody, but we did sign somebody in the Rule 5 draft with Brennen Davis, the center fielder, former Cub, so we get to kind of take him away from the Cubs. He's still dealing with a torn meniscus in his knee. We're just trying to add some competition at right field because there was a hole there, so we'll have guys like Nick Decker, Jimmy Kloenke, Brennen Davis go ahead and compete for that right field spot this upcoming year in spring training and see who kind of looks like who's ready for the major leagues there, because none of these guys have big league experience. He was in Double-A last season, hit 256 OPS plus of 124 and OPS of 809, which is pretty impressive. So good intelligence. If he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it. We'll release him back to the Cubs. Done that with other Rule 5 picks before. Brennen Davis, our Rule 5 selection. All right, we are back for February 10th. I'll probably end the video here in a second, so we won't quite get to spring training. I'll kind of go over that roster here in a moment, but I want to wrap up this video because I know it's been a while since I've started my offseason video and been a while since you guys have last seen our last Out of the Park video. So let's go through what has happened, a couple things of note. And the big news for us is we have signed pitcher Luis Severino. I think I talked about him earlier in the video. Was going back and forth on him because when I was scouting him, his ratings kept falling and falling, but he did bounce back in our latest report. So it's a one-year deal. It's a little more than what I wanted, $7.58 million. I think it's the total. There's some option bonuses in there for All-Star and Cy Young and things like that. But just 1 year, probably slides in number 4 spot in our rotation, I think. The movement's a little bit low with a power pitcher, and you just worry about, will that changeup kind of hang on to be a decent enough third pitch for him. The stats last year with the Yankees were not great, though he was pretty durable, but an ERA plus of 110, a pretty low BABIP, and a decent WAR. So just a 1 year kind of flyer. We had some money to play with, and I figured let's throw it out there to Severino. If he doesn't work out, it's a 1 year contract, and we're not going to lose a whole lot of sleep over it if it does not work out. So a quick look at our pitching staff for this year should be Keller, Musgrove. Let me actually slide Severino in there now for you guys, because he should go in to the 3 or 4 spot, depending on Jackson Kowar and his health. He'll be back from that torn labrum in just a week, and hopefully he's maintained his overall and potential. We'll find that out. I'll probably show you guys that in our next video, but that'll be our rotation with guys like James Marvel, potentially Stephen Brault working in the mix for injury or replacement if Kowar's not ready or someone gets hurt or whatever inevitable problem pops up during the year. Another player we signed was Enrique Hernandez. That'll be our new first baseman with O'Neal Cruz getting traded, and really more than a first baseman, he's just that versatile super utility type guy. He's on a minor league deal that can become a major league contract before day 30 at $1.3 million. He should get promoted. I'll put him on the roster right before the regular season begins. But yeah, just a guy that can play everywhere, literally first, second, third, short, left, center, right, everything but catcher and pitcher. Pretty much for Hernandez. He can play some better than others. He'll be a first baseman, a good source of power. He's not going to strike out a lot. The weird thing was, though, last year in 2022, he didn't play at all, and he was not injured, right? No, he was not injured, so he just sat out last year, which is kind of strange. So there was a bit of a projection, I guess, with him, and a little concern about how he's going to look literally a year removed from the game, but he'll be the backup first baseman to Ordonias. So we'll have Hernandez and Ordonias at first base, and Hernandez can fit in a whole lot of other places when injuries pop up. Unfortunately, the bullpen arm we were going after, which I mentioned earlier in the video, Taylor Rogers, I thought I was going to get a deal with him, but he dumped me at the last second to go to the Dodgers, because of course, maybe if we had beaten the Dodgers in the postseason for the second straight year, he would have signed with us. That was going to be our great lefty type guy. He's got awesome numbers versus lefties and pretty good numbers versus righties too. And I gave him more money. I was offering him almost $8 million, and he signs a 1 year deal with LA for just 6.5. But he'll take living in a bigger place, a bigger baseball town with the Dodgers, I suppose. Are they a bigger baseball town? I don't know if they are or not, but certainly a bigger market, more exposure, and less money, but a chance to go win a World Series ring. So that one hurt a lot. Looking for a lefty arm to replace Justin Wilson, but it will not be Taylor Rogers. And honestly, I went to try to find other lefty options. Zach Britton was still out there. Chapman was still out there. I just didn't see anyone that made enough sense. So we have Blake Wayman. He probably will not be ready for the start of the season, but we have him, Stephen Brault, Gabe Spears will be in spring training with us. Maybe we'll try to find someone during the season, but just that's the one concern with this team right now. Just trying to find another lefty arm that we just do not have, unfortunately. Quick look at the MLB at large as free agency begins to wind down, and who were, from a WAR standpoint, the biggest winners and losers. The Padres gained 7.2 WAR this offseason, tops in Major League Baseball, and they added Mookie Betts. Basically, all of that came from Mookie Betts. So I think I showed you guys that earlier. That was their big signing. The Braves were second. I think I was the Bogart signing at short. It's been a while since I've last played this. In last place was the Red Sox for largely losing. No, Mookie Betts was not part of the Red Sox, actually. So let's see who they lost, because he was last with the Diamondbacks. He's bounced around a whole lot. Mookie has. So the Red Sox lost Matt Barnes. Chris Sale was the big guy that they lost. Benintendi, Bogarts, Josh Bell. Where did Bell end up? Bell is with the Cubs. I forgot to mention that as well. There's a lot of guys playing in NL Central, so Josh Bell will try to spurn us playing a Cubbies uniform now. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, we finished 22nd at negative 3.2. So I'll go through the players that we gained and lost here in this nice little window. The guys we added was Severino was the big one. Did I show you guys this trade? I'm trying to think if I showed you guys this trade or not, because again, it's been a little while since I last played out of the park. But we got this outfielder, Joe Surface, which is a weird name. I don't know if this guy even exists or not, but another outfielder with really good potential that Houston did not seem super high on. So we added Surface, and in exchange, we just traded a couple of players. Campana, a center fielder. We got so many center fields. We added Bradfield. We can definitely dump some of those guys. Brett Brokoff, who was a draft pick in 2020, our 8th round pick in our first draft. But he'll now go to Houston. Medina, a second baseman with a good avoid case, but he's fragile, but also good with a glove. And also gave up as a decent piece John McMillan, who they're making a first baseman. That's interesting, because I had him as a reliever, because he had some pretty good reliever numbers, so the control was poor. But they may try to two-way him or first baseman. I'm not quite sure, but that is all the Astros' problem now. So we get Joe Surface. He'll start probably in Double-A this year. I'll have to move him up here. Let's do that actually right now. And yeah, really good. The contact's a little low, but everything else looks spectacular in terms of potential. Right field guy, good arm, high work ethic. So maybe kind of stole him a little bit. I'm not sure, but just trying to add some outfield pieces, and Joe Surface is one of them. All right, sorry for that detour. To go back to our list of guys gained and lost. So yeah, we got Severino. Really was the big one here, and then J.J. Goss and Bradford and some of the trades that we made. Goss actually came down a little bit in his potential, so hopefully that kind of bumps back up. That'll be a little scary. And I hate whenever you click off of it, it scrolls you back to the top. But in terms of players we lost, I mean, that's mostly from all the trades we made. Adam Frazier, last I checked, was still a free agent. Trevor Williams is signed with Boston, so he'll go to the Red Sox. Jimmy Nelson pitched for 4 seconds for us. He remains a free agent. And I think both Crone and Stallings are still free agents. They are. And so is Frazier. So really only Williams has signed. Justin Wilson signed with the Yankees, actually. So he is now wearing the Yankees pinstripes. Have not put together the spring training roster yet. That's still a couple days before that officially starts. I apologize, just couldn't get to that, and I wanted to get this video done and sent out to you guys. But we'll look at that and recap that for the next video before we play opening day. Basically, the starting lineup is almost identical to where it was at the end of last season with Barrera, Ordonias, Newman, Hayes, Ilmes. Actually, well, maybe Ilmes might be equal Tucker. Walls, we'll kind of see how that battle goes. Tucker probably will starting, and then we'll kind of go from there. Reynolds, Sanchez, Billy Hamilton's still here. I wanted to upgrade center field. Just hard to find a guy that's really good with a glove and really good range, and that's what I prioritize in center field. So Hamilton is here for now. We'll see how it goes. He's a fan favorite. That kind of helps out the PNC Park crowd. The right field battle is totally up in the air. I mean, it's battling basically between, I'm not even sure who right now. Nick Decker, who we traded for in the Josh Bell deal last year, whose potential has increased, and he did well in Double-A for us last year. Our first ever draft pick, Jimmy Kloenke. He continues to rise and has some very Adam Frazier type numbers. He reminds me a whole lot of Adam Frazier, to be honest with you, and he did not have a great time in Triple-A last year. Maybe his morale being low hurt that, but he'll be battling for that spot. And if not them, we may get a vet of some sort. I think Robbie Grossman is still on the team. I signed him to a minor league contract in the offseason, so he's there in kind of a vet depth in case of emergency, and it'll probably be in spring training with the Pirates. So I'm going to wrap up the video right here. Hopefully I did not forget anything. It took me like 2 weeks to piece this thing together, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know how you think I did in free agency, and we'll join you for opening day in our next video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.